I'm the new female clerk at a high-end men's clothing store where everyone gives special services to their customers. Except for me, the other female clerks all have amazing sales records. Until that day, I discovered the secret behind their amazing performance. The boss dragged me into the store's fitting room in front of her paralyzed husband, teaching me how to serve customers. You have to cater to the customer's needs. Now I'm the customer. Help me take off my pants. These pants are a little tight, hard to take off. Help me pull them down a bit so I can try on a new pair before buying. A male customer I didn't know pointed to his pants and asked me to help him. His eyes were constantly scanning me, making my face flush red, and I lowered my head, not daring to look him directly in the eye. But faced with the customer's order, I could only tremble with my two hands, carefully placing them on his waist, helping him slowly pull down his pants until the customer looked excited, and there was a change in the pants he was wearing. I clearly saw something I shouldn't have seen, and my hands paused. Oh my God, how do I take these off? It's stuck. I could only turn my head away and slowly try to take off his pants. After finally managing to get it done, I hurriedly took his old pants, stepped back, and turned around to get the new pants with a smack. Seeing my embarrassed look, the impatient customer bent over and gave my shapely behind a smack. My name is Amy Smith, and I've been married for less than a year. My husband had an accident at the factory where he worked, and his leg was crushed by a machine. Because it was his own operational error, we didn't get much compensation. The burden of life has fallen entirely on my shoulders. I finally managed to find a job as a sales assistant in a high-end custom clothing store. I didn't expect that after only a few days on the job, a customer would ask me to help him change his pants today. I shuddered from the slap, my eyes glazed over for a moment. Subconsciously, I turned to look at him. The male customer chuckled. "Bring me the new pants and put them on me now." The male customer sat on the sofa in the fitting room, directing me. My eyes darted away. Looking at the male customer's malicious gaze, I hesitated for a moment, but ultimately, for the sake of my job, I could only carefully retrieve the custom-made suit pants for him, took his leg into my arms, and slowly pulled them up his leg, bit by bit. The male customer's leg was restless, constantly brushing against my front. His foot felt like it was giving me a massage, making my heart race. I had just put both pant legs on him when the male customer stood up. "Now, help me pull them up." I slowly pulled the pants up for him, and the male customer suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist. The professional uniform I was wearing gave him a lot of convenience, and he was actually trying to reach inside my clothes. I couldn't help but let out a sound, which was a bit loud. The male customer frowned, looking displeased. "It's just a little touch, and you dare to scream? I'm not buying these pants." The male customer angrily pushed me down. He glared at me, changed his pants, pushed open the fitting room door, and left. The door creaked open, and I thought the male customer had returned, so I hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry, I'll definitely serve you well this time. I was actually just..." Before I could finish, I realized the person who came in was the clothing store owner. He glanced at me and closed the fitting room door. What was going on just now? The owner looked down at me, his eyes scanning my body. The owner, Tom Brown, was not young, in his 40s, with a very rugged face. Standing in the fitting room, his large frame was in stark contrast to my petite figure. "That customer is one of our biggest clients, and now you've chased him away. Boss, you heard it too." I thought he came back, and I said I was willing to do whatever service. It wasn't intentional. "Please don't fire me." I was a little scared and quickly begged the owner. The commissions here are quite high, and I was afraid of angering the owner. What if he doesn't let me continue working here? The owner looked at me thoughtfully, then took a few steps closer and looked me up and down greedily, his breathing becoming a little heavy. "Amy, it's not me saying. You're already so old and even married before. Don't you know what men are thinking? It's necessary to give them a little something sweet. I think you're just too shy. What did he ask you to do? And why didn't you do it? Show me." Listening to the owner's words, I suppressed my embarrassment and looked at him. Hesitant to speak, Tom Brown frowned. "Looks like you really don't want to work here anymore. You're not listening to what I'm saying." He turned to leave, and I quickly grabbed his hand. My pull caused his body to lean towards me. We both fell onto the sofa. His burly frame was too heavy, crushing me like a broken toy. Looking at our pressed-together bodies, Tom Brown swallowed hard. "Your body is so soft, and your chest is a weapon to attract men. Why don't you know how to use it properly? Now, show me again." Hearing his words, I quickly nodded. That male customer wanted to take off his pants and asked me to help him. Is that so? Tom Brown looked at me reluctantly to get up. His hands gently pressing on my legs, taking the opportunity to straighten up, he said, "Now, take off my pants." My eyes widened instantly because I noticed Tom Brown's pants were slightly different from before. Could it be that Tom Brown got some ideas when he was pressing on me just now? How am I supposed to take them off? I hope the pants don't get stuck. Compared to the male client just now, Tom Brown was extraordinary. I was shocked, my heart pounding wildly. My husband's leg is paralyzed, and he's in a bad mood. We haven't done anything in a long time. Which is why I've become so sensitive. The client's actions were unbearable. Looking at Tom Brown now, my heart is in turmoil, but for the sake of work, I gritted my teeth, placed both hands on his waist, and slowly unbuckled his belt, forcing myself to suppress my embarrassment. Tom Brown then said, "Crouch down a little. Do you understand the kind of impact and temptation it has on a man? Lean your body forward." His words made my face turn redder and redder, and my breathing became rapid. At this moment, my face was only a few inches away from his groin. I struggled to pull down his pants, enduring Tom Brown looking down at my bent-over, protruding backside. Suddenly, someone called me from outside the door, startling me. "Amy, your husband has brought you lunch." I was about to respond when Tom Brown's breathing became even more rapid, exciting, so exciting. "Don't stop, let me tell you. Amy, the customer comes first. Serving the customer is the most important thing. Deal with your husband later." After saying that, he shouted towards the door, "I'm teaching Amy etiquette. Tell her husband to wait a moment." I could clearly feel that boss Tom Brown had become like a beast, and he was enjoying this kind of immoral stimulation. Okay, Tom. I don't mind waiting a while." My husband had already arrived. He responded from outside and then seemed to start chatting with a colleague. Listening to my husband's voice, my face was flushed with shame. But I didn't dare to disobey Tom Brown's instructions. I finally managed to pull down his pants, and I felt like Tom Brown's eyes were about to burn holes in my clothes. I wanted to stand up, but I felt weak all over from his staring, and I stumbled and fell in front of him. My cheek happened to brush against his groin. Tom Brown groaned and then smiled playfully. "Amy, you learn quickly. You're a natural." My face flushed at his words, and I subconsciously wanted to explain, "Tom, I didn't mean to." Tom Brown waved his hand, interrupting me. "Get my pants on." He sat on the sofa, gesturing for me to help him put on his pants. I endured the soreness in my body and placed his leg in my lap, gently slipping one leg into the pant leg. Tom Brown leaned forward, slowly stroking my head. "Your husband being paralyzed must make him useless. Otherwise you wouldn't be so sensitive. Actually, I can help you, if you want." His hand caressing my head made my mind go blank, a tingling sensation spreading throughout my body. My eyes happened to glance at his shorts, and I immediately lowered my head. Tom Brown's body is really strong. If I could be with him. Thinking of my husband outside, I quickly suppressed the budding wicked thoughts. "Tom, the pants are on." I didn't dare to answer him, helping him quickly put on his pants. To my surprise, Tom Brown actually released his hand from my head, got up, and walked out. Is he letting me off the hook? While I was wondering, Tom Brown had already opened the fitting room door and walked out, even patting my husband on the shoulder. "You married a good wife." My husband nodded and bowed like a lackey. "Thank you for taking care of her, Tom. I hope Tom can teach her more in the future." After speaking, my husband scolded me, who was walking out behind him. "Tom thinks so highly of you. You must work hard and listen to Tom's arrangements." Looking at my husband's appearance, I felt a little sad. Your wife is being taken advantage of, and you're still helping the other person speak. And letting Tom Brown teach me. Who knows what he'll teach me? Thinking of this, I felt even more upset. Just as I was about to go to dinner with my husband, I saw Tom Brown returning with a piece of clothing. "I'll teach Amy a little more, and we'll eat after she learns." My husband hurriedly nodded with a smile. Yes, don't let her eat if she doesn't learn." After speaking, my husband pushed me, urging me to quickly go in with Tom Brown. My husband's action made me a little angry. Isn't this just pushing me to Tom Brown? Out of anger, I had a revengeful thought and followed Tom Brown into the fitting room. After entering, I saw that Tom Brown was holding a pair of close-fitting boxer briefs. He wants me to help him change his shorts. My face flushed with embarrassment. Tom Brown put the shorts in my hand. "Put these on me." this. I hesitated, but Tom Brown grabbed my hand and placed it on his waist. If you want to make money, don't be shy. I'll teach you step by step. He took my hand and unbuckled his belt, pulling down his pants. Then he put my hand back on his waist. Take this off for me, looking at the outline on his briefs. I was so shocked that my mouth fell open, and I was too ashamed to look up at him. It was so mighty, many times stronger than my husband's weakling. Tom Brown released my hand, pinched my chin with one hand, and forced me to look up. Hurry up and change it for me. This is also a kind of service. Do you still want to work? My face was as red as a ripe apple, and when my hands accidentally touched his briefs, I felt hot all over and my body trembled. My husband is outside, and I'm actually doing this. I trembled even more in shame, but I didn't dare to make a sound. I was afraid of making a noise and being heard. Sensing the change in my body, Tom Brown wrapped his arms around me and reached into my pencil skirt with one hand. Amy, I knew you were sensitive. Look how wet you are here. Do you want it? But your husband is outside, so you have to be quiet. Regardless of my refusal, he directly pressed me on the sofa and pulled out my panties that were already wet. I was pinned to the sofa by Tom Brown, feeling both ashamed and angry. I knew I couldn't go on like this, or I would not only lose my dignity, but also fall into an irreversible situation. I took a deep breath, tried to calm myself down, and a plan quickly flashed through my mind. Tom, wait a minute, I said softly, my voice trembling slightly, but more determined. Tom Brown stopped, squinting at me. What? You still want to resist? I shook my head, a forced smile on my face. No, I just think it's not very convenient here. My husband is outside, and if he hears anything, things will be difficult to deal with. Tom Brown sneered. Your husband? He's just a loser. He can't even protect his own wife. What do you expect from him? My heart stung, but I knew it wasn't the time to be sentimental. I suppressed the anger in my heart and continued. Tom, you're right, but I think we can find a safer place. After all, you don't want other employees in the store to know, do you? Tom Brown's eyes flickered with hesitation at this. As arrogant as he was, he knew that such a thing getting out wouldn't be good for him. He let go of me and stood up. All right. You're right. Come to my office after work tonight. I nodded, secretly relieved. I knew it escaped this time. But the next plan had to be foolproof. After work, I went to Tom Brown's office as agreed. Tom Brown was already waiting there. A smug smile on his face, he pointed to the sofa. Sit down, Amy. We can have a good chat tonight. After I sat down, I took a bottle of red wine out of my bag and said with a smile, Tom, I brought this especially as a thank you for your care. Tom Brown's eyes lit up, and he took the red wine to examine it. Not bad. You're quite thoughtful. I smiled, secretly sneering inside. I had already added something special to this bottle of wine. I knew that someone like Tom Brown would never miss an opportunity to take advantage. After the two of us drank a few glasses of wine, Tom Brown's eyes began to glaze over, and his body gradually lost strength. He leaned back on the sofa, muttering something, but he could no longer speak clearly. I stood up and looked at him coldly. Tom, do you really think that a woman like me can only be manipulated by you? Tom Brown wanted to answer, but he couldn't say anything. His body was completely limp on the sofa, his eyes filled with terror. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Hello. Is this the police? I want to report a case of sexual harassment. The next day, the news that Tom Brown had been taken away by the police spread throughout the clothing store. The employees were talking about it, and no one expected that the usually arrogant and domineering boss would end up like this. I stood at the door of the store, watching Tom Brown being escorted into a police car, but I didn't feel any joy. I knew that although I had gotten revenge, this experience had left an indelible shadow in my heart. Just then, my phone rang. It was my husband. Amy, where are you? I heard Tom Brown was arrested. Are you okay? My husband's voice was full of concern on the other end of the phone. I was silent for a moment, then said softly, I'm okay, honey. Let's get a divorce. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone, followed by my husband's trembling voice. Amy, I know I'm not good enough for you, but I really love you. Can you give me another chance? Tears finally streamed down my face. I knew that even though my husband was inept, his love for me was genuine, but I could never go back to the way things were. I am sorry, honey. We both need a fresh start. A few months later, I left that clothing store and opened my own little shop. Business wasn't booming, but I finally regained my dignity and freedom. One day, a familiar figure walked into my store. It was my ex-husband, Amy. I want to win you back. He held a bouquet of flowers in his hand, a sincere smile on his face. I looked at him, my heart filled with mixed emotions. I knew I might never completely forget that dark period. But I didn't want to be trapped by the past anymore. We can try to start over, I said softly, but this time, we have to treat each other as equals. My ex-husband nodded, a glimmer of tears in his eyes. Thank you, Amy. This time, I will cherish you. In the end, I finally found my own happiness, and those who had hurt me received their due punishment. With my own wisdom and courage, I turned my life around and became a truly independent and strong woman. Daily updates of good-looking, high-quality romance novels. Welcome to subscribe. The end.